Hi, and welcome to Introduction to Verilog, Data Types and Variables video. So it's important to note that Verilog variable types are actually what's referred to as a four-state. That means they can represent four different states for an individual bit. So they can represent a 0, which represents a logical low, a 1, a logical high, an x, which represents an unknown, and z, which represents high impedance. So for each of our variables, we can have, if it's 1 bit wide, it can represent one of these four values. Some of the different data types that we have in Verilog is wire. You can think of a wire like a physical wire itself. It doesn't store any value and it has to be continuously driven. The other type of data type that's mainly used is a reg. It stores a value from one assignment to the next, and its default value is x when it's first initialized. Some of the other data types that we use is integer, which is used for loops, and it defaults to a 32-bit wide value. The other data type, which is a real, which can represent a value that contains a decimal, such as 2.5. It is important to note that reals cannot be synthesized and are mainly used for simulation purposes when we write test benches. One thing that we have in Verilog is vectors, also known as a bus. So in Verilog, we can represent a string of continuous bits together as one variable name. So in this first case, we have a wire, which is 8-bit wide with the label A, with the most significant bit being on the 8th bit. And from here we have a reg, which is 4 bits wide with the label B. So if I was to call the B variable, I would be actually calling 4 bits. Same thing here, you can label variable from 0 down to 3. This simply means we're switching the most significant bit to the 0 instead of the 3. And we access one bit at a time by simply calling an A with a bracket and the bit we're trying to access. In this case, if we want to access a range of bits, we can simply put 1 down to 0. For this instance, if we want to access 2 bits for our BU reg. The other thing that we have in Verilog besides vectors is what we refer to as arrays. This range usually means the range will follow the name of the variable. So as before, vectors usually come before, arrays will come after. And in this example, the first one, we have a reg A, which has an array of 8 reg elements. And we can see this visually with this example over here. So here we have 8 elements, or 8 reg elements, that are 1 bit wide. An example of mixing our vectors and arrays is we have a reg, which is an 8-bit wide, and there's 4 of these. So together we have an array of 4 8-bit wide elements, which again we can see visually down here below. So we have 8 bits, and then from here we have 4 of these 8-bit wide elements. Now if we want to access the first set of 8 bits, we simply call B bracket 0. Here's an example of a Verilog program using the different data types reg and wire, as well as using a mix of vectors and arrays. So here we have our ports list. Now you notice there's no data type labeled here. Usually this means that we're dealing with is a wire. Now if here in our output we put the data type reg. So we have a 4-bit wide vector for our data out for a reg and our reg data type. So here we have a 3-bit wide vector for a wire data type. And we have a 4-bit wide vector for a wire data type. Internally, as you can see here below, I have 8 elements of 4-bit wide with a label block that's using reg. So that's it for the variables and data types video. If there's any information else you want to see, please email us at csusiee@gmail.com. Thank you for watching and look out for more videos.